Here's a Joe that's good with the javelin. Here's your look at the brand new Super 7 G.I. Joe Ultimates Lady Jaye Covert Operations. A covert operations specialist, Lady Jaye's specialty is blending in behind enemy lines, but there's no denying that her importance in the fight against Cobra stands out in the crowd. This made-to-order 7-inch scale fully articulated G.I. Joe Ultimates figure of Lady Jaye comes with interchangeable heads and hands, as well as additional weapons and accessories, including her signature javelins. They say that knowing is half the battle, but you already know you want this Lady Jaye figure, so there's no need to battle against your urge to add it to your collection. Just before we look at Jaye, Lady Jaye, let's first grab the tape measure and see how tall the figure stands. In this case, Lady Jaye is about 6 3/4 of an inch in height, or the figure is going to be about 17 centimeters tall. And getting some comparisons going, here's what Lady Jaye looks like with the Wave 1 Snake Eyes. Here's what the figure looks like with the Wave 1 Duke. And here's also a figure that she shares the same wave with, and I'm sure they have some sort of relations. Here's what the figure also looks like with the Wave 2 Flint. I guess because the figure comes included with utility shaft, she actually comes with more accessories than maybe your standard Ultimates Joe. Before we actually look at the utility shaft and all the many tips that come included with it, why don't we go actually a little bit back in past and actually look at the 80s released accessory that she comes included with. This Lady Jaye did get an initial release in the 80s, although that Lady Jaye would have had a very notable cap, and instead of the standard javelins she would be known to see in the cartoon, she had instead sort of this laser javelin. The power javelin actually has a removable end to it that basically propels itself off, although the original toy would have just all had it molded together like this. So again, I guess there is a little bit of assembly required, and there's a little bit of playability also as well. You can pretend like the actual javelin is rocketing this off towards a Cobra enemy. It's a nice little accessory, not one really I will be displaying with the figure, because for me at least, I like to display all my Joes sort of more the way they look in the cartoon. To which then we look at all the other accessories that the figure comes included with. I did already say that she came included with a utility shaft that basically starts only as a pole and post, but then you get all these multiple tips that vary in different designs and shapes. You get a standard tip, and then you get like a couple of different varieties that you could kind of guess for yourself as to what exactly they do. We'll start first with the regular tip, which is basically just sort of a spear end. She also comes included, if I can run through all of these, sort of like this one, which I guess you could say could be rocket-powered or maybe shoot out gases. She also comes with one that clearly looks to be more like a hook, and they all slide in the exact same way. They hold fairly well, too, so you could tip them upside down, and they survive a blizzard test. She also comes included with, again, like this one here. There's many of them, of course. We want to make sure I go facing the right way. It comes with this variation. Couple more. Actually, you know, to be honest, looking through all of these, they remind me of accessories that would have come with Generation 1 Transformers. This one right here as well. And then she also comes with this variation also as well. So there's a couple of different ones to choose from when it comes to displaying her with the utility shaft. The figure also comes included with these variations also as well. This looks to be more like a laser cutting tool. You'll see by the end of it that's sort of more of a translucent pink plastic. And then, last and rounding up the rest, she also comes included with ones that are spear tipped that have additional ropes. Now, these ropes I haven't yet taken the time to unravel, but basically they're just additional ropes that you can pretend, like maybe, for example, she's shooting this against the wall and sort of scaling up the side. She comes with that variation, and then she also comes with this one that's a little bit more elaborate of a hook. And they all work basically the same way. I will find myself quickly, after this review, putting those back into the tray, because I know at some point, if I decide to display her with this variation of the javelin, I know the spear at some point is probably going to fall off, whatever one I decide to use and display with her. I would much rather just instead display her with a javelin that's already got everything intact. It is essentially the same javelin post, at least, from the one we looked at before. Color-wise, it's exactly the same. The only thing that's different, though, is that you don't have to take the time to remove these, as the spear is already added to the end of it. It's already sculpted in place. There's also this one also as well that has some additional hooks on the end of it, and it also looks like it perhaps could be rocket-powered, depending on picking what javelin, you'd like to display with the figure. So I do like those options also as well. The figure also comes included with a video camera. The video camera, I'm sure, was used in an episode. It's drawing a blank. I'm drawing a blank, at least right now. But it's molded all here in black plastic. It does sort of look like it could detach. I've tried to pull this, and not really knowing whether it is supposed to be removable or not, and sort of feeling as if I might potentially break a peg, I've just decided to leave it instead. I'm sure by looking at it, it looks like it's detachable. But all the fuss and muss that I'm putting into this, I'm not going to be displaying with the figure with the camera. Anyways, we're going to put that to the side. The figure also comes included, going back to the javelins, that she also comes included with a quiver with already retracted javelins in the back. None of these seem to be removable, although they feel loose. So they probably have added these individually and then just sort of mounted them inside the bottom of it so that you can't actually remove them. If you could remove them, good luck. Congratulations if you do. But I feel like, again, if I pop these out, I potentially could break something inside of it, and I'd never really be able to put any of these smaller size javelins back in place. This actually was already on Lady Jaye at the time of getting her out of the packaging, so I guess if you wanted to, you could really leave it off altogether. But I, for myself at least, like the idea of displaying her more so with the quiver, just because that's the thing I always recognized right away in the cartoon. She's got the javelin, and she's also got herself the quiver with the extra javelins located on the back. The other thing also, by the way, while we also have the figure in hand, she also comes included with a canteen. I'm not really sure why this wasn't simply just sculpted onto the belt already, as it has to be then something that you have to add onto the back of the figure's body. It takes, of course, a little bit of pressure, as you have to take then the larger peg and fit it then into the provided hole on the back of the canteen. And again, you just have to twist and pop that in place. I have now already done this 4 times, and all the times that I've done this, and I know even when we get to the articulation end of things, I know this canteen's going to only pop back off. So you'll excuse this humbled reviewer. I'm just going to leave it off for right now, and we're going to put the figure down, and we're probably not going to revisit the canteen anytime soon. Lady Jaye also comes included, because as of right now, she of course only has closed fists, but she has a couple of gripping hands to hold any one of the javelins we've already had a look at. She comes with some slight variations to that. So like, for example, if you wanted to have like, this one really is the best when it comes to holding the javelins, just because the grip of the hands are a lot smaller. Whereas like for this one, for example, this would be much better for like the power javelin, basing it more on the original 80s toy. It would also be good, those hands, by the way, to hold the other included accessory that for a second I almost forgot. It was right over here. She also comes with a standard issue Joe laser rifle. Pew, pew, pew. Of course, that can be good and suitable for holding then with these hands. Simply just, again, like put the hands around the handle and you're good to go. The last of the accessories, the figure also comes included with a couple of gestured hands. I almost for a second dropped them. Nicely molded here in sort of more of a military swamp green. Any one of the hands, by the way, can be removed. Simply just, again, take the hand, remove it, detach it from the forearm. One worry that I did have, let me just put to rest right now if you had a similar worry yourself. Did the ends of the gloves fall off? No, they haven't. Not yet, at least. And let's say, for example, let's grab one of these hands. So we're just going to pop this back into the provided peg. There we go. And then from there, you can easily then take the javelin. Certainly the way I'm going to be displaying the figure. And then you just slide the javelin into her hand, and Lady Jaye is good to go. Okay, so then on to the figure's heads. I'm just kind of sliding stuff over and hoping that none of those javelin tips of the multi-shaft, utility shaft, none of those get then lost. Okay, so the other thing that the figure comes included with as well is 2 alternate head sculpts, 2 additional, of course, to the one that she already has attached to her neck. One, though, is very close to the one that we already have. This is the defaulted head that, as you can probably recognize right away, does have just a closed mouth. This one here, though, while being very close to the naked eye, you'll actually, in fact, notice that this one does have an open mouth. It's a very marginal difference, really, between the two. That I almost don't even feel like they need to spend the plastic time to actually produce a secondary head if it really isn't that much different than the one we already start with. The other head sculpt that she comes included with seems to follow the trend of still having G.I. Joes with walkie-talkie headphones. Duke has come included with this. Flint has also come included with this. Snake Eyes doesn't. Snake Eyes doesn't buy into the idea of having to carry around a headset with him. He just uses wireless. He probably uses like the little earbuds inside his mask. But if you did want to have all your Joes talking away on their walkie-talkie headphones, you can do that if you want. The thing about it, though, is I always seem to find like the ones that have the walkie-talkie headphones always seem to be the best head sculpts of the three. Lady Jaye does have, at least to this one's credit, some additional coloring that doesn't seem to be not as much on here on the defaulted head. So I almost even wish that I could have actually displayed the figure with this, but I really just don't want to have every single Joe displayed, at least whether I think this is a better head sculpt or not, with the headphone actually over top of her head. I still wish, though, that the headphones were separate pieces, that I could have then just put the headband over top of the head, or just leave it off entirely if I wanted to. But again, like, I feel like this is the best of the three. So what we'll do for right now, say, for example, you did want to change out the heads. Say, for example, you wanted to change it for the one that has the mouth open. Holding on to the quiver, we just want to carefully remove the head. Detach that, of course, from the ball joint. Then pop in the new head that's in place. I always find it helps to put your hand on top of it until you get a little bit of a snap, and then you know it's in place. This head sculpt is not bad. I mean, again, it's not that different from the one we already had a look at. But it draws also one thing attention-wise, is the fact that, once again, they're not painting these heads. To draw back in the attention of Duke, which Duke, again, seems to be the benchmark when it comes to these G.I. Joe Ultimate figures, Duke had himself a painted head sculpt. And since then, every other figure that we've gotten that's skin toned has all relied on molded plastic, which works okay. But when you already see how well they've done with Duke, you kind of want to hope that they follow that up with every other figure that they release since or afterwards. And of course, all the cases, at least from a skin tone standpoint, Flint as well as Lady Jaye all rely then on just molded the plastic, just a molded skin tone. And I find it just doesn't deliver as well as a painted head sculpt would be. The other thing it also draws attention to, not only is just the fact that the plastic feels unfinished, unpainted, but it draws also more attention to the fact that her outfit, they have colored over the skin tone from the dark green outfit that she is normally wearing here. You don't see it maybe as much as Flint in the sleeves, because her sleeves are actually a little closer to her elbows, but you notice a little more of it, though, when you look at her neck. Her neck has, because of the virtue of just using green plastic, they have to paint over top of the green, and it leaves, unfortunately, behind an unsightly greenish tint to the skin tone. It maybe isn't as obvious, perhaps, as Flint's, but I do notice it. I mean, I'm sure you probably can see it for yourself. Do I wish that they could have? Obviously, they probably would have had to spend more time, more resources and materials to paint the coloring of green over top of the skin tone, or they probably should have just gone back and applied a second coat of paint, because it really is a bit of a divide when you look at the head sculpt and then you look at the more greenish tinted neck that she has. All the rest of the things on this Lady Jaye mirror more to the cartoon that she would have had, or the design that she would have had in the cartoon, not as much necessarily to the original 80s toy. I think also in the comics, Lady Jaye does have also this similar type of look. She has a little knife there on the side that's not removable. All the belt, as you can see, is sculpted in the same brown plastic with some additional nice silver accents there, and she's got a little pocket on to the side there also as well. It's a nice overall looking figure. It just goes back to the point I made already earlier and in the other reviews that we looked at both the Baroness and the Flint. I do wish, though, that moving forward they could go back to the idea of painting their head sculpts. Because, like, again, the notice between the two isn't so much necessarily when you look at, say, Lady Jaye to Baroness, but it's even more apparent, though, when you, say, compare her, say, to the likes of Duke. For the figure's articulation, we're going to start back with her head sculpt here. Of course, the head is going to be, once again, on a ball joint, so we can't rotate the head all the way around. With the quiver, of course, in mind, you want to make sure that I like to personally tuck the quiver underneath her collar. That kind of, by the way, it keeps the quiver shifting around on us. But the head does look up only by just a little bit. It does look down, again, only a little bit. And you can also rock it back and forth as well. Shoulders on Lady Jaye allow the arms to come out at almost 90 degrees. It seems like there's a little more of a hang up here when it comes to the figure's arms. Maybe unlike Flint and unlike the Baroness, where you would be able to hinge these out completely, there seems to be, at least on mine, a stopping point where it's telling me right now, don't move it any further. Don't move it any further than what you've got going right now. Arms rotate all the way around. That's, by the way, the same case on also this other side as well. She has a bicep swivel. Single hinge only, again, on the elbow, but allows at least the forearm to rotate back and forth. And yeah, you can rotate the hands all the way around also as well. The upper torso is not as much on a crunch. It seems to be with the female figures, like, for example, if we did bring back in Flint, for example, Flint did have an ab crunch. That was consistent when we looked at, say, Snake Eyes, for example. That was consistent also as well when we looked at Duke. The only one that actually didn't have that was Destro. Lady Jaye, though, and it seems to be the case with the female figures, they don't have as much a crunch as they have a ball joint at the top of their torso. They also have a secondary ball joint at the base of their torso where the abdomen meets the waist. The legs do split out. You can take those legs and again move them forward and move them back. There's a swivel just by the virtue of the way that that's been assembled. Swivels at the top of the thigh, only still possessing a single hinge in the knee. Doesn't rotate the lower leg, even though what I had said before. And again, you can rotate the boots all the way around. Ankles do allow the boots to hinge up and down this way. And there's also a nice ankle pivot there also as well. This Lady Jaye also benefits from better standing abilities than, say, perhaps the Baroness that we looked at before. Speaking, though, of the Baroness, I mean, seeing as they do share the same wave and all, let's bring in the Baroness, who still has a problem for me, at least, of leaning backwards. More so to the fact that the way they've actually jointed the torso sort of then results, unfortunately, in the figure kind of weebling back a little bit. Lady Jaye doesn't have that problem. And again, here's the other figures that we already had a look at from this wave. I hope you guys have been enjoying the reviews of these. There's Destro, and again, there's Wave 2 Flint. All in all, it's a good-looking wave. I'm glad that these are the kind of characters that we did get. The only thing that really does stand out a bit when you really then look at the likes of Flint, the likes of Lady Jaye, the likes of Destro, is that this time around they decided to do mini-series Baroness rather than regular costumed Baroness. And if that was only the case where they actually had costume her in black, even though I do like the actual blue use of Baroness, I think they would have blended better in sort of like similar season sets, if that makes any sense whatsoever. But again, I like the look of these figures. The only thing, again, very absent indeed, is, again, when you bring in, say, the likes of Duke. And I hate to be the person that keeps bringing in a character and saying, you know, again, like collectively, I wish that they could be more like this guy. But again, like, Duke really is the one that set the bar when it came to what we would be expecting or what we would think that we'd be getting for future waves moving forward. They've done away with the idea of painting the heads, at least for right now. I hope, though, that's a trend that they're going to go, though, back to, because while these all have been good-looking figures, Lady Jaye's not a bad figure at all. By not painting the faces, I think is really where this wave, the Wave 2 of G.I. Joe Ultimate figures, have suffered a little bit. And I hope that it's a course correction that Super 7's going to make with Wave 3 moving forward. I might be dating myself by saying this, but I always consider the analogy of G.I. Joe's who was better, Scarlet or Lady Jaye, similar to the debate that fans for a long time have said between Gilligan's Island's Ginger and Marianne. How many people even remember Gilligan's Island? Back, though, to G.I. Joe, while obviously Scarlet would have been the OG female Joe, the moment that Lady Jaye stepped on the scene along with Flint, I right away liked Flint and Lady Jaye a lot more than Duke and Scarlet. Lady Jaye had sass to her, as well as really Flint for that matter. And I just thought she was more of an interesting, established character than maybe what we got before with Scarlet. It's somewhat ironic considering that the first female was Scarlet, and I guess to some matters, CoverGirl also as well. But then Lady Jaye ends up being the first female Joe figure that we've gotten from the G.I. Joe Ultimates figure. I find that kind of funny. We are still going to be getting Scarlet, yes. And though, again, going back to a point I mentioned before, I do hope, though, that the Scarlet figure that we will be getting from Super 7 is also going to be painted similar to what we would have gotten from Duke. Yeah, obviously costs have been saved, I would imagine, with a bit less paint that they've been applying to the face sculpts. But I would really say, please bring back the painted head sculpts. It does certainly make the figures look a lot more like the cartoons, and they look a lot then less like plastic figures. Again, we get the whole idea that these are plastic articulated figures, but by adding just that little bit of love, that little bit of paint to the face, it's a big difference between what we got with Duke and what we got with Flint. So I hope that's something that they're going to be changing moving forward. But I do like the look of Lady Jaye. I have to keep thinking to myself, though, how much better would Lady Jaye have looked had they only applied a little bit of paint? What do you guys think of Lady Jaye? Let me know down below in the comments section, and let's perhaps pose this as a debate that you guys can let me know down below in the comments section. Who's better, Scarlet or Lady Jaye? Let the debate rage on. By the way, though, also, if you guys are interested to pick up this wave for yourself, any one of the 4 figures or all the 4 figures we've looked at over the last 4 reviews, they are available as of right now at least, an Entertainment Earth. That's at least where this guy behind the camera ended up picking them up. If you click the link down below, not only will it take you on over to Entertainment Earth's site where you can order these for yourself, but by also using the link that's provided in the video description, it will not only save you 10% on your purchase of G.I. Joe Ultimate figures, but anything else you decide you want to shop around on their site for, it'll take off 10% right away. Of course, if you guys enjoyed this video, want to hit with a like. If you guys are loving the content you guys are seeing, and you certainly do want to stick around for more, please, that would be nice. Make sure you hit that subscribe button down below and that you're also turning on the bell notification. Some sad news to report, of course, if anyone's been taking tally. This is the last of course, the G.I. Joe Ultimate figures, at least for right now. But there will be more, though, coming your way. So as always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.